The wind howled through the broken arches of the forgotten city as Aeryn circled overhead, her wings cutting through the cold dusk air. Below, Rowan stood at the edge of a crumbling causeway, lantern raised, its glow barely pushing back the creeping dark. "Still nothing," he called up. Aeryn descended in a slow spiral, talons scraping stone as she landed beside him. Her sharp eyes flicked toward the skyline, jagged towers leaning like rotting teeth. "Nothing alive," she said, pausing. "Nothing obvious, anyway." Rowan gave a humorless smile. "That's worse." They both looked ahead. The city stretched before them, silent and enormous, its streets swallowed by shadow. Somewhere within its depths lay the sword of Damocles, a weapon whispered about in half-forgotten myths, said to grant immense power, but at a cost no one could quite define. "Last chance to turn back," Rowan muttered. Aeryn folded her wings. "You've said that 3 times already, and I'll say it again. And I'll ignore it again." She stepped forward first. The gates groaned as they pushed through, metal scraping like a warning. Inside, the air felt heavier, thick with age and something else, something watching. Their footsteps echoed too loudly. Rowan adjusted his grip on his sword. "Feels wrong." "It is wrong," Aeryn replied. "This place is holding its breath." They moved cautiously, weaving through collapsed buildings and statues worn smooth by time. The silence pressed in on them until even breathing felt intrusive. Then came the first trap. Aeryn's instincts flared. She grabbed Rowan's shoulder and yanked him back just as the ground where he'd been standing dropped away into a pit of black spikes. Rowan staggered, heart pounding. "I didn't even see." "Because it wasn't there," Aeryn said, peering into the darkness below. "It appeared when you stepped forward." Rowan exhaled slowly. "Good start." They began testing each step after that. Night fell quickly, unnaturally fast. Shadows deepened, pooling in corners, stretching across the streets like living things. And then, movement. A shape flickered between 2 pillars. Then another. Rowan raised the lantern higher. "We're not alone." Aeryn's feathers bristled. "No." The creatures emerged silently, tall, thin, and wrong. Their limbs bent at unnatural angles, eyes glowing faintly like embers buried in ash. Their skin seemed to drink in the light. "Don't run," Aeryn whispered. "They'll chase." "Great," Rowan murmured. "What do we do?" "Stand our ground." The first creature lunged. Rowan met it with steel, the impact jarring his arm. The thing recoiled, hissing, then came again, faster this time. Aeryn launched upward, striking from above, her talons ripping through shadow flash that dissolved like smoke. But more came. Dozens. They fought back to back, blades and claws flashing in the dim light. The creatures didn't bleed. They simply unraveled when struck hard enough. "Tell me there's a limit." Rowan shouted. "There's always a limit." Aeryn snapped, though she wasn't sure. Then, just as suddenly as they'd appeared, the creatures withdrew, melting back into the darkness. Silence returned. Rowan leaned heavily on his sword. "I hate this place." Aeryn scanned the shadows. "Stay sharp." That wasn't a victory. Deeper into the city, the architecture changed. The buildings grew taller, more ornate, carved with symbols neither of them recognized. At the center stood a massive structure, a temple or palace, its doors half buried in rubble. "That has to be it," Rowan said. "Or the worst place we could possibly go," Aeryn replied. They approached anyway. Inside, the air was colder. The walls were lined with murals depicting figures kneeling before a blade suspended above them, a sword hanging by a thread. "The sword of Damocles," Rowan whispered. Aeryn studied the images. "Look closer." The figures weren't worshipping. They were terrified. The chamber at the heart of the temple was vast. At its center stood a pedestal. And above it, a sword. Perfect. Gleaming. Untouched by time. Suspended in mid-air by a single, impossibly thin filament. Rowan stepped forward, drawn to it. "That's it." Aeryn didn't move. "Wait. You feel it too, don't you?" he said. "That power." "I feel something," she replied. "But it's not right." Rowan hesitated. Then the ground trembled. The doors slammed shut behind them. And the shadows returned. This time, they weren't just creatures. They were the city itself awakening. The walls shifted. The floor cracked. Statues twisted, their stone forms breaking apart into monstrous shapes. Guardians. Of course there are guardians, Rowan muttered. Aeryn spread her wings. We take the sword and leave. Simple. Simple, she echoed, not believing it. They charged. Rowan fought toward the pedestal, dodging massive stone limbs that smashed the ground where he'd stood moments before. Aeryn harried the creatures from above, drawing their attention, slashing at eyes and joints. Rowan, now, she shouted. He leapt onto the pedestal, reaching for the sword. The moment his fingers brushed the hilt, everything stopped. The creatures froze. The air went still, and a voice echoed, not in the room, but in their minds. Power demands a price. Rowan's grip tightened. What kind of price? He asked aloud. No answer. Aeryn landed beside him. Don't take it. We came all this way. And now we know why no one else has. Rowan looked at the sword. Then at the thin thread holding it. Damocles sat beneath a sword to understand danger, he said slowly. This isn't a weapon. It's a warning. Aeryn nodded. Take it, and we carry that danger with us. Always. The thread trembled slightly, as if reacting to their thoughts. Rowan exhaled. Then stepped back. I'm not paying a price I don't understand. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the sword flickered. And vanished. The guardians crumbled to dust. The doors creaked open. The city fell silent once more. They didn't stop walking until they reached the gates. Only then did Rowan finally relax. Well, he said. That was not what I expected. Aeryn glanced back at the city. We found what we were looking for. And left it behind. Sometimes that's the real victory. Rowan smiled faintly. You're getting philosophical. Don't get used to it. They stepped out into the open air, the first light of dawn breaking over the horizon. Behind them, the forgotten city seemed to sink back into shadow, as if it had never been there at all. Rowan adjusted his pack. So, next adventure. Aeryn spread her wings, a hint of excitement returning to her eyes. Somewhere less cursed, hopefully. No promises. She laughed, taking to the sky. And together, they left the sword of Damocles where it belonged, unclaimed, and perhaps, better that way.